Welcome to the year of 1914. Dark times ahead, my friend. The events of the coming years are going to destroy an entire generation. The bloodiest and most violent century in humanity began here. Empires will be destroyed and new ideologies will rise, all because of one shot. Every war to this day can be traced to this moment. Today, I will tell the worst of all stories, the war that changed history, the apocalypse of empires. This is the Weltkrieg, the mother of all wars. Even before the death of Franz Ferdinand, Europe was ready to explode. Otto von Bismarck said, "One day the great European war will come out of some damn foolish thing in the Balkans." The man was a prophet. By the end of June 1914, Franz Ferdinand, the heir for the Austro-Hungarian Empire, was shot, killed by these Serbian bastards.
This assassination in Sarajevo will have unimaginable consequences.
The July crisis has begun. Half of Europe sided with Serbia, and the other half with Austria. Like a domino effect, a wave of military mobilization ran across the entire continent. The events that lead to this catastrophe can only result in war. A war the world has never seen seems inevitable. The German Empire will not stay behind. Plans were made against France, and the German army went on high alert. But the real problem is the Russians, the biggest country on earth. A two-front war is the worst-case scenario. The only chance to win, the only defense, is attack. Conquer as much territory as possible, strike hard and fast. Break the enemy with everything we have. This will be the strategy of the German Empire. Finally, on July 28, 1914, Serbia rejected the demands of the Austrians and the apocalypse has begun. Dear God, what have we done? The Great War and its consequences is a disaster for mankind. The events of the coming months will destroy entire generations. The terror they will see in the trenches is unimaginable, but now, whatever the reason or cause, no longer matters. Victory is all that matters. Let the Weltkrieg begin, the mother of all wars. The German army did not hesitate for a second. All armies were ordered to attack in all directions. In the Western Front, the Schiffling Plan was activated immediately. As half of the army is fighting in Russia, it will be impossible to break the French line, so Belgium must fall. This is no joke. Germany was officially put into war economy. This is a war we cannot lose. Any advantage, anything that can be done for victory will be done. Belgium would never be a match for us, and the small country of Luxembourg was the first victim of the Weltkrieg. This is just the beginning. Entire nations will be destroyed. The fall of Brussels came soon after. Now we have a window of opportunity to attack France. But there was a problem. We underestimated the French ability to bring reinforcements. We did manage to extend the front, but these baguettes sent reinforcements in time. This front will be difficult, but at least good news from the east. The war against the French is only half of the Weltkrieg. We have an even bigger front in Russia, and the other half of the German army achieved a very important feat, the conquest of Warsaw. Despite the first resistance from the Russians, the German army managed to cross the Wisła River and enter Warsaw. A defeat so heavy and so quick that created a pocket of Russian divisions and they suffered heavy casualties. The east is promising, but in the west, the Schiffling Plan had failed. We managed to get through Belgium, but we couldn't get to Paris. The French put everything they had to the front. Logistics were starting to get tight. We are losing the offensive momentum. The solution is to switch for the defensive strategy. Trenches. Heinz, we have trenches to dig. Rumors began to emerge about the rape of Belgium, where there are supposedly many civilian casualties in the German occupation. Lies and propaganda. Despite all effort, we completely lost the offensive momentum. Positions in the Western Front are in total stalemate. Entire battalions and regiments tear each other apart over centimeters of land. This is the terror of trench warfare. But then, far away, a surprising surprise came from the Black Sea. The Ottomans entered the war against the Entente in our side. Another participant for the Weltkrieg. The Ottomans will be especially important in the Caucasus, where they could divert resources and troops from the Russian Empire while the German army advances unstoppable. This marked the end of 1914.
The advanced weaponry turns the conflict into a slaughter. 230 men are killed each hour.
The year of 1915 has arrived, all quiet on the Western Front. But in the East, it was the opposite. German troops were heading towards Lithuania, and a large pocket in the Austrian border. They were encircled, attacked, and destroyed. The Weltkrieg is taking its toll in the Russian Empire. Nicholas II sealed the fate of the Russian Empire when he declared war against us. There cannot be a world with a Tsar and a Kaiser. The Weltkrieg is the apocalypse of empires. In the end of this war, one will stand, the other will fall. With the help of the Austrians, our divisions cross Ukraine, reaching the Black Sea. The Weltkrieg has no rules, no boundaries. Any advantage, anything that can be done for victory must be done. Like gas, a terrible and painful killer. In mid-March, a new ally joined the Central Powers, Bulgaria. Their help will be essential to defeat Serbia, those fucking bastards who started all this, which came to happen 2 months later. The nation that started this war has finally been defeated. These threat Austrian divisions for other fronts, such as the Italian front. The Italians, who betrayed our alliance, went against us. Mark my words, they will pay for that treason. By early August 1915, one of the longest battles of the Weltkrieg began, the Battle of Kiev. Even with Prussian superiority in question, the vastness of Russia is terrible. Supply lines were suffering. From that point, the advance of the Central Powers was slower, constant but slower. This battle took months. General Brusilov was defending the city. The Russians knew the crucial importance of Kiev. Our divisions and our allies fought building by building, but in the end, the victory was ours. A very important victory. Kiev was the only supply center for hundreds of miles. Our logistics improved while the Russians suffered a heavy blow. Some might even say that this was the point when the end of the Russian Empire was truly sealed, a severe blow they could never recover. Angetreten. Behold one of the best German inventions, the K-98. Let's start the production of this fine piece of art. The Weltkrieg requires more and more deadly weapons, gas grenades. Now it is time to put a final end to the hopes of the Tsar. Or not. Just when I was going to say, the Weltkrieg made the internal problems of Russia even worse, forcing Tsar Nicholas II to take extreme measures and abdicate the throne. The democratic opposition took over the government, forming the provisional government, which already has problems with the Bolsheviks. Perhaps we will see conflict within Russia itself. We are witnessing to the destruction of the Russian Empire, but our situation isn't much better either. The price we are paying for victory is high, very high, as the nation is completely focused on the war. The political power passed to the military. Erich Ludendorff became the de facto leader of the country. Can we trust him? I don't know. What I do know is that even the war economy is not enough. The solution is total mobilization. We cannot lose this war. Any advantage, anything that can be done for victory must be done. This is how the year of 1915 ended. In the arrival of 1916, the collapse of the Russian Empire became clear to the whole world. Such big is this decline that the High Command authorized the creation of vassal states in the former territories of the Romanovs. States such as the Kingdom of Poland and the Baltic Duchies. These new kingdoms will help us integrate our growing Kaiserreich. Then, on February 15, 1916, the news of the fall of Petrograd arrived. For the first time in its entire history, the city of St. Petersburg, or Petrograd, was captured by Russia's enemies. The city garrison refused to capitulate, which backed out the German forces to a bloody urban battle. A heavy artillery bombardment was necessary, which destroyed the historic center. The Russians fought hard, but in the end, victory belongs to the Prussian military might. This day will be remembered as the day of the fall of Petrograd. But all things there are limits, and the limit for the Russians is here. On March 5th, 1916, they were finally forced to accept the heavy terms of our peace agreement. After St. Petersburg, Moscow, Kiev, and other cities all fell to the German control, they finally capitulated. Where Napoleon failed, Germany won. Our diplomats forced the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk. Ukraine, White Ruthenia, and smaller vassal states were created, all under the rule of the Kaiserreich. This day will be remembered as the day of the German victory against the Russians. But you think we are done here, Heinz? You are wrong. We are only halfway to the Weltkrieg. All this time, all was quiet in the Western Front. A massive reorganization is underway. More than 100 divisions who were fighting the Russians were redeployed to the Western Front. We had to do this quickly. There is no time to waste. On April 15, the new offensive was authorized. Let the race to Paris begin.
Greif weiter an! Los, los, los! Angetreten! Männer!
The Weltkrieg takes its toll. Winter is coming. After years of war and naval blockades, the danger of shortages of all vital goods is real. This war needs to end, otherwise a fatal situation will arrive. There were months of constant battle, with no advance, until June. We broke the line south of Danzig and managed to encircle a vast portion of the French army. Even surrounded, this army took a lot of work to destroy. At least the advance continued in other parts of the line. Ludendorff himself was in the front leading the armies, until the Great Arab Revolt. The Ottomans are in very trouble, worse than us, and that's why we have to win this quickly. After a 5-month-long siege, the French pocket was finally destroyed. 400,000 casualties, a devastating loss for the French. This is what they pay for helping Serbia. The destruction of the French army in the south created a gigantic gap, which our troops did took advantage. And this left the French command in total panic. The French line is completely collapsed.
Los, los, los! Ausrücken!
The Weltkrieg continues to claim victims without mercy. The sad news arrived of the death of Franz Joseph. Under the stress of this cursed war, Franz Joseph succumbed to pneumonia. Perhaps not even Austria will survive the Weltkrieg. We have lost many good men. It is time to put a final end to this damn war. At the end of 1916, our units arrived at the gates of Paris. But this will be the hardest battle of the entire war, because we know, and the Entente knows, that it's all or nothing. The last effort, the last battle. If we don't win in time, the British will send even more reinforcements and create another stalemate, which we cannot hold. For better or for worse, the fate of Europe will be decided in Paris. This was the end of 1916.
There is only one way this war ends. Last man standing.
We and the Entente sent everything to this battle. We threw all of our weapons at Paris. Airplanes, tanks, gas, airships, railway guns. It was a long and costly battle, the longest of the entire war. But at the end of January 1917, the city of Paris finally fell. Thousands of German soldiers marched under the Arc of Triumph. Mere decades after the Franco-Prussian War, we few still alive who remember that time see the French nation fail once again. Soon after this, the Entente finally surrendered. With so many lives lost and chaos that had destroyed so many nations, world politics is about to change. This day will be remembered as the day the golden age of Germania began, the most powerful country in the entire world. May the dead rest in peace. This is the victory of the Kaiserreich. It is time for the peace conference, the time to reap the fruits of so much sacrifice, from a war that many have even forgotten was started. First, reparations from France. Let's get everything east of the Maas. As for Africa, we annexed vast territories in the sub-Saharan Africa. Belgium is now a German puppet state. In the end of the Weltkrieg, the German economic policy is of post-war economy, focusing on reconstruction and demobilization. We have a lot to do in the coming years. But that's okay. The Kaiserreich is alive. We had casualties, but we are victorious. Winning has its benefits. Even though it's over, the Weltkrieg keeps claiming victims. King Victor Emmanuel of Italy has just abdicated. South Africa collapsed into internal conflict. The war still rages on. Not long after, the British Raj collapsed. A civil war between the independence movement and the British garrison. Losing has its consequences. We are witnessing to the destruction of the British Empire. But even in victory, not even the Austro-Hungarian Empire survived. The death of the emperor fragmented the empire into several countries, loyal to Austria only legally. And guess what happened in the south? The Italian Civil War, a war between republicans and monarchists. This is what they get for betrayal. However, we have our own business. Be to Africa. The vast African colonies we have gained will be organized under this administration. Forever German Africa. Defeat has consequences, and the Italian Civil War only got worse, with the emergence of a new ideology, the Senegalists. Something tells me that these guys will cause trouble. For now, what matters is the founding of the Reich Pact, the new military alliance of the German Empire. To guarantee the stability and security of Europe, the Central Powers will be reorganized into the Reich Pact. And this is where I end this video. So this video was originally made in Brazilian Portuguese and I decided to translate to English, using my own voice because I see AI voicing as cheating. Anyway, I have a channel in Portuguese and this is a new project I'm starting. I hope you enjoy. And if this pay off, I'll make more. And feel free to subscribe. Goodbye.